All right, guys, here we are with our Week 13 breakdown. We are back to the buys, but again, things have gone hypercritical mode. We have 2 weeks left of the regular season. Games are more crucial than ever. So many injuries we have to navigate and talk about. Players that are stepping up out of seemingly nowhere. And as always, we'll do in-depth player breakdowns here and over on Sleeper. So as we continue to, expand this channel, go ahead, like the video, subscribe, and I'll see you on the other side of the intro. All right, guys, welcome back into TwinTakes Fantasy Football. If you can't tell from my voice, I'm a little bit under the weather, but that is not going to stop us from putting out content. I do have a cup of tea right here, and normally I do hate when people drink or eat in their videos or on streams, but, desperate times call for desperate measures, and I'll only do that if necessary per my under the weatherness. But without that out of the fact, we still have all of our normal content here, all the matchups looking forward to, all of our quick hits, best of the rest, our matchup of the week that we're going to break down in depth, and we'll leave you with some parting thoughts and also direct you to SleeperHQ over on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and the proprietary app for a lot of in-depth player breakdowns that are going to be so critical for a lot of the players this week. So without hesitation, let's get into our first matchup that I'm personally looking forward to, and it's got to be the Dolphins at the 49ers, where San Francisco is currently favored by 4 points. Over-under is sitting at 46.5 right now, a little low if you ask me. And given that over-under, Miami currently is projected at 21.5 points, and San Francisco is currently projected at 25 points. And in this game, Mike McDaniels returns to face his mentor in San Francisco and Kyle Shanahan. And this is like the first question I got to ask here: how does this play out into the game, into play design? These are two guys that know each other so well. If there's anyone on this planet that knows how to exploit this 49ers defense that is like number one ranked currently, it's going to be Mike McDaniels. And if there's anyone who knows how to stop mad scientist Mike's incredible offense with Tua, Tyreek, and Jalen Waddle, it's got to be Kyle Shanahan, who knows how to pick apart all the schemes and has watched Mike McDaniels develop his offense over his time out there in the Bay Area. So this is going to be an absolute thriller of a game. And not only that, the coaches match up well and have such an intimate knowledge of each other's teams, but also these are teams that match up well. 49ers first-ranked run defense, not a problem. The Dolphins barely run the ball. They throw the ball to two of the top 5 wide receivers in the NFL in total yards, and Waddle and Tyreek, and Tua, when he's under center, it's a top 5 passing offense. So yeah, they'll attack him through the air. Not a problem. No need to rely on Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert. And, totally fine. Dolphins, they have a bottom 10 ranked run defense. Perfect. Kyle Shanahan loves his running game. They traded for CMC. Even with Elijah Mitchell out, CMC should be the workhorse and step up in that regard and absolutely eviscerate the bottom 10 run defense. So I do expect this is going to be a pretty high scoring game. I do expect to see an offensive explosion, and very excited for both sides of this game. So we haven't got to talk about the players individually, and you never like to see injuries. You never root for injuries. I hate when players go down to injury. But with the case in Elijah Mitchell, it actually provides quite a bit of clarity. I mean, he goes down to another knee injury for another 6 to 8 weeks. This has been, same old song and dance with Elijah Mitchell. Very explosive, dynamic runner, very fast, but also incredibly injury prone. So again, we should see CMC step up as the workhorse. No more split backfield between the two of those guys. But also, CMC apparently is reporting with knee stiffness and a couple other ailments, so we don't even know if he's going to be 100% by the time Sunday rolls around. Apparently we can, why can't we ever have nice things in the 49ers backfield? We have such a beautiful coach in Mike and Kyle Shanahan who loves to run the ball, but we can never get a running back healthy enough to make his system effective. I will say that I've gone ahead and picked up Jordan Mason. I know TDP versus Jordan Mason is a pretty hot topic issue between fantasy analysts. I've gone ahead and personally picked up Jordan Mason. That's where I think he will go. But, keep an eye out on reports, keep an eye out what the coaches come out and say, who's lining up in the backfield. Obviously, keep an eye on the injury report for Christian McCaffrey. We'll speak volumes as to who's going to be taking a lot of the snaps from behind in the backfield this coming week. And also, without 40 opportunities splitting between Mitchell and CMC, I mean, we saw like 20 opportunities, 18 opportunities each in the past couple games, but now Mitchell's out, and they're not going to get 40 opportunities to CMC. They want to limit his workload. They want to make sure that he is still healthy, especially with this knee stiffness. So Kittle will be heavily utilized. Ayuk will be heavily utilized. I mean, he's been super productive and does make up your way into your lineup regardless of Debo's health. Debo, again, hasn't been great all year. He's been dealing with a ton of injuries himself. He has a lingering issue, which is why he was on a snap count last week, and he has been limited at practice throughout this week. But if he is active, I am going to play him. He is a must-play, despite his disappointing 5.8 fantasy point week last week. Just because it's going to be fairly high scoring, and if they want to keep up with the Dolphins' explosive passing attack, they're going to have to use Debo, and he should make he'll score double-digit points. If he's active, I'm definitely playing him. And then on the other side of the ball, I mean, for the Dolphins, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, it is reported that McDaniels came out and said Raheem Mostert will be back, but even still, Mostert, ever since they traded for Jeff Wilson, he wasn't the lead back in this offense. Jeff Wilson's been the primary back in this offense, and regardless, I'm still kind of low on Wilson versus this number one ranked run defense for the 49ers. You got Tyreek, you got Waddle, both of them to the moon. They're going to be throwing the ball all over the field with Tua. So must-starts, pretty obvious here. You got CMC, you got Kittle, you got Ayuk, you got Debo. If he's active, I'm definitely playing Debo. He's a must-start in your lineup. I don't want to hear, he's been bad all season. Tyreek, Waddle, and Tua from the Dolphins side as well. In the probably start section, I mean, it's a high-scoring game, and we've had issues trying to find consistency outside of the top 5 quarterbacks. So Jimmy G probably does make your way into your lineup this week. Again, we want to see any team that's going to be high-scoring, and obviously Jeff Wilson is the lead back. So, if you're struggling at running back, Jeff Wilson, he might find the end zone. He has a touchdown upside. And then desperation, you can start Mike Gesicki. Again, it's going to be a passing offense. I think it's going to be heavily skewed towards the pass game for the Dolphins. Mike Gesicki could get involved. And then, desperation start based on CMC's injury status. Jordan Mason is a guy I'm leaning with. So let's jump into our second game that I'm looking forward to, which is Chargers at the Raiders, where Chargers are currently favored by 2 points. Over-under is sitting at just over 50 points at 50.5, which gives the Chargers a projected point total of 25.5. And the Las Vegas Raiders a projected point total of 23.5. And I guess I just can't quit the preseason AFC West hype that was showered on us through the entirety of the offseason. Just can't quit it. I just see too much potential in both of these offenses. And I know you're yelling at me. That's been disappointing all season for both of these teams, not just one or the other. For both these teams, have been disappointing all season so far, but they still have those primary pieces in place that caused the hype in the first place. Still have Keenan Allen, still have Justin Herbert, still have Devontae Adams, still have Josh Jacobs. There's so many integral Austin Eckler, how could I forget him? So many integral fantasy pieces that make these two very explosive offenses. And over the past 4 weeks, these both have ranked top 10 in offensive efficiency. Oh, and guess what? Over that same time period, both teams have ranked bottom 10 in defensive rankings. So this should result in a very high scoring game based on what we see in that over-under I mentioned previously. And a high scoring game equals fantasy goodness. We know this. Again, Devontae Adams, he's just so special, especially with Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller both missing the rest of the season. He leads the entire NFL, more than Tyreek, more than Kelsey, more than Diggs in targets. He has 123. That's 11 more than Tyreek, I believe, which is just insane. Adams might be the most desirable fantasy asset for the rest of the year, just based on how much opportunity he's being force-fed. And Josh Jacobs, he's only having the best year of his life, the best statistical year of his career. So the Raiders are also coming off to back-to-back wins, despite it being in overtime and just maybe starting to figure things out after 12 weeks into the season and causing a little bit of a stir. And you got to start Jacobs and Adams. On the Chargers side, Keenan Allen is back, and after avoiding re-injury through 2 weeks, I guess we can believe that he came out, he missed 10 weeks. He was saying, I'm not going to come back until I'm fully 100% healthy, which was true. I guess we can believe that. He did retake the field. He's on a limited snap count 2 weeks ago. He played over 90% of snaps 89% or 90% of snaps last week, which means he's basically back to 100% go. So he wasn't lying. He is 100%, and he has absolutely retaken his place as the alpha wide receiver in this offense. He's had great production these past 2 weeks, seeing 7+ targets in each contest, and he found the end zone this past week. I only expect him to get better and better as Mike Williams continues to miss games. Again, yeah, we know Mike Williams is out, but DeAndre Carter and Joshua Palmer have both stepped up in his absence to fill that void. And then with Justin Herbert fully healthy from that rib injury, he looks like he's now back to full health. I know he was struggling there for a little bit, but again, he's making throws that he couldn't make in week 5, 6, and 7. I don't think this offense will be slowed down, again, given Joshua Palmer and DeAndre Carter. This week, I would rather take that shot on DeAndre Carter instead of Joshua Palmer. I just think the vacated targets by Mike Williams more closely aligns to DeAndre Carter's production. But I do break down Joshua Palmer, Keenan Allen, and DeAndre Carter very much in depth over on that SleeperHQ channel with those shorts videos that you've seen over the past few weeks. So go over to SleeperHQ, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on the app itself, or whether it is via Instagram. Go check out those shorts, and I will go into a deep dive on why I do prefer Carter slightly over Joshua Palmer this week. All good stuff over there. Check out my videos. Check out the guys that I do this with. Super fun. Going to plug that continuously. So let's get into our must-start list here. Talked about it. Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams. If you're not in the lineup, what are you doing? Are you tanking? Can't take in redraft. Obviously, Keenan Allen, Justin Herbert, and Austin Eckler on the other side are must-starts as well. And the probably start, again, high-scoring matchup. Derek Carr, he's been disappointing, but he had a good week last week. I would start him here, especially against this bottom 10 defense of the Chargers. DeAndre Carter, again, probably start. Joshua Palmer as well. Again, favorite DeAndre Carter a little bit more. And then Gerald Everett. He has had good production from the tight end spot and has a good connection with Justin Herbert. I would probably start him just based on, tight ends have been absolutely abysmal this year. And then in a desperation start, we do have to monitor Josh Jacobs' injury. He does a calf strain. Obviously didn't hold him back last week when he scored 45 points, but he still continues to be on the injury report for this week. So we saw Amir Abdullah get a little bit involved. Keep an eye on it. If he is limited to any sort of way going into this weekend, Amir Abdullah could be a desperation start. And also Foster Moreau, again, touchdown upside. He's a guy that if he gets a touchdown, that's a good tight end week. So finally, last matchup I want to really highlight here before we get into our quick hits is going to be Jets at the Vikings, where Minnesota is currently favored by 3 points. Over-under is set at 45.5, with projected point total for the Jets being 21 points and Minnesota being projected at 24.5. Now, this will be a very, very interesting game as Minnesota has firmly locked up their playoff spot, but they are jockeying for that number 1 overall seed. Everyone wants to get a first round bye, whether in fantasy or in real life. And they are 1 game behind the Eagles. Eagles do hold the tiebreak over them from their matchup win back in week 2. So the Minnesota Vikings basically have to win out the rest of the season if they want to have any chance of getting that week 1 or that first round playoff bye. So every matchup is crucial to them. But Jets are currently in the playoffs, but also, the AFC is much more ferocious than the NFC. Let's just face it. They have the Chargers and the Ravens both on their heels trying to fight for that last playoff spot. So they will need a win here to definitely secure their playoff spot. A loss here puts their playoff chances in jeopardy. The last week, the Vikes took down Jets light. The Patriots. But it should be another solid test here in the Jets, who I value a little bit better than the Patriots. And they didn't look like world beaters against the Patriots. So again, this will be another good test for the Vikings here just to see if they can keep their offense rolling. Jets do have a stout defense led by Rookie of the Year candidate Sauce Gardner, and I'm very, very excited to see that matchup versus Justin Jefferson. Love that guy compensating outside of my window right now. I don't know if you could hear that over the microphone. Hopefully not. But, this is going to be this game will... Jesus, that kind of threw me off a little bit. But this game will be a very, very loose adaptation of the phrase unstoppable force meets an immovable object when we talk about the Jets defense versus the Vikings offense. But we do have to watch this. It's a great test for the defense to see if Dalvin Cook can get going. If Justin Jefferson can just exert his will over Sauce Gardner, who's not been one of the best rookies, but one of the best overall cornerbacks in the NFL this entire year. And they're going to have to show that they can constantly produce and, have these amazing offensive outputs versus good defense that they want to make a deep run into January. This will be a very good test to see how their prospects of actually running for a championship will look come later on in the season. The Jets are doing the smart thing and staying with the better quarterback in Mike White. I actually do fear the Jets a little bit more with White at QB. And there's a very simple reason why. The coaching staff puts him in manageable positions to succeed, and he works within that system in order to find success. As Robert Saleh said it best. He makes the easy things look easy. They set him up and he fulfills those things. He doesn't make the easy things look hard. I mean, just look at the wide receiver production under him versus Zach Wilson. The main Wilson here is going to be Garrett Wilson and how much better he is with White under center than Zach Wilson. But the main question here is, what is the health of Michael Carter? He's obviously the dominant running back with Breece Hall missing the rest of the season with that ACL injury, but he left the game early with that with that ankle sprain last week. I haven't seen anything on the severity of that ankle sprain. So if he's active, he is a must start if he gets in a few practices this week. But if there is a strong possibility that he does misses and they hold him out for another competition just to have him ready to go for later on in the season as they make that playoff push into the playoffs. And if that happens, that backfield just goes to heck in a handbasket. Self-censor. My money here is on Ty Johnson taking over the bulk of those carries. Yes, we saw Zonovan Knight step up, and he does have a very, very cool name. I will admit that. But Ty Johnson has the tenure with the Jets. He has the experience in the NFL, and he actually showed quite a bit of explosiveness last week. So my money's on Ty Johnson, just not enough money that I would even consider him as a flex start. Michael Carter misses. I don't want to mess around with any of the Jets running backs. So let's get into our must-start tiers. Must-starts, obviously, are going to be Dalvin and Jay Jets from the Vikings side. On the other side is going to be also TJ Hawkinson. I do like TJ Hawkinson a lot. I think he's made a lot of progress in this offense, especially with, Darren Waller out, Dallas Goedert out, just so many injuries, Kyle Pitts out, so many just inconsistencies around the tight ends. TJ Hawkinson now finds himself as a must-start tight end. On the other side, Garrett Wilson's a must-start, and then Michael Carter, if he's healthy, he definitely is a must-start. And the probably start section, you find your quarterbacks in both Mike White and Kirk Cousins. They're both competent quarterbacks, not great quarterbacks, but they're competent and work within the system and can get you that 300-yard, 2 touchdown, and a little bit of yards on the ground that you're looking for to have a sustainable week. Adam Thielen, Tyler Conklin, and Ty Johnson, again, if Michael Carter misses. And then the desperation start, Elijah Moore. He found the end zone last week, but only had 2 receptions, so I'm not really sure how translatable that production is. But, desperation start. Looks decent with Mike White throwing the ball. Let's get into our best of the rest / quick hits. We'll start with tonight's game, Bills at the Patriots, where Buffalo's currently favored by 4 points. A little bit generous, if you ask me, but Ramondre is the only relevant player from the Patriots, if you ask me. It's been like that the past few weeks. I don't see that changing going forward. No need to overthink any of the pass catchers. If Jacoby Myers misses, I know he was pulled out of the game last week with an injury, could be in sort of a contusion kind of thing, he's limited in practice, could miss. If he does miss, maybe you look Hunter Henry's way. We saw him find the end zone twice, and without some of that competition from wide receivers, that Hunter Henry is that primary pass catcher, but with Jacoby Myers back in the fold, I don't think there's a sustainable production. On the other hand, this is a stout running defense that is really, it bottles up Dalvin Cook, and Dalvin Cook is much better than Singletary, so Singletary gets a huge downgrade for me this week. Obviously, you're going to play all the wideouts in Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, but you do know how Bill Belichick loves to take away your number one option. That's going to be Diggs, so Diggs might be a little limited, and for that, I would obviously take a shot on Isaiah McKenzie. We saw him have great production last week, and if they're going to allow a lot of production to the slot and take away the boundary on the outside through Jack Jones on Stephon Diggs, should be plenty of opportunity for Isaiah McKenzie to produce in this game. Titans at Eagles, where Eagles are currently favored by 5 points. Well, sound like a broken record at this point, but the Eagles give up the highest expected points per attempt to the running back position, and we've seen running backs go to town on this defense. Just look at A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones last week. They both had fantasy relevant numbers, both inside the top 20 running backs on the week. So, yeah, Eagles are very susceptible to the run, which means Henry's probably going to be a top 5 back this week. They're just going to run it down their throats with Derrick Henry. I'm sitting Treylon against the secondary. I don't expect Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to be back, but you still have Darius Slay, who's incredible. You still have James Bradbury, who is incredible. So not worth messing around when you understand that it's probably going to be 3 run plays to every pass play based on how this matchup lines up. For the Eagles, this will be a brutal game, and I am on upset alert for the Eagles. We talked about how they found their identity last week, but it was through the running with Jalen Hurts for 157 yards. Miles Sanders had over 100 yards rushing. That's how they found their identity, but this Titans defense is top 3, in fact, in rushing defense, led by Jeffrey Simmons. So the Eagles need to prove that they can facilitate a balanced offense and not just rush the ball down people's throats. They will need to get Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown heavily involved in this game, so both will be crucial. I know it's been a couple rough weeks for Devonta Smith, but he is a must-start for me in this game. Packers at Bears, where Green Bay is currently favored by 4 points, and this is a game that honestly, I almost didn't cover just because it's so dependent on quarterback play, and you don't know which quarterback's playing for both teams. So Fields is a must start if he plays, given how awful this Packers run defense is. However, I am very concerned with that separated shoulder. It's going to affect his throw. It's going to affect his concentration, going to affect his mentality, and going to affect his confidence running the ball and absorbing contact, which is where he's been so good, breaking out of contact and breaking off these long runs. I'm not going to start Chase Claypool, but with Darnell Mooney out for the rest of the season, it'll be interesting to see if he steps up and becomes, as long as Justin Fields can elevate this offense, let's see if Chase Claypool gets elevated into that wide receiver 1 position with him and becomes, a manageable flex start in a decent matchup. I don't think it really matters, honestly, for the Packers if Rodgers or Love plays. They're interchangeable for me right now. We saw enough production from Love when he stepped in the fourth quarter that I'd be fine starting Christian Watson, Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones and Christian Watson are both must-starts in this game, just based on how bad the Chicago defense is and how talented they are in their own respective rights. But Love, Aaron Rodgers, half dozen one, six with the other. They're the same in my mind right now. Their talent level is the same. The way they facilitate this offense is the same. The way they run Matt LaFleur's scheme is the same. They're interchangeable to me right now. And this is a huge reason why I think Jordan Love should be starting the rest of the season and why they should probably ship off Aaron Rodgers and his massive contract after this season is over. I guess AJ Dillon can be a flex play after his resurgence last week, but it's only 1 week out of the past 12. Not super confident. Jaguars at the Lions, where Jacksonville is currently favored by 1 point, and all signs do point to Travis Etienne playing this week back in the fold. It looks like it wasn't a misdirection by Doug Peterson and the coaching staff. They said he was medically cleared to return last game, but they held him out due to an overabundance of caution, and it seems like they were right. Travis Etienne's back in the practice. He's taking reps with the first team. He seems like he's totally okay to go. However, the Lions defense has been stellar against the running game in the past few weeks. Aaron Jones, they shut him down. They shut down Saquon Barkley. Devin Singletary, they shut him down. Not as impressive as the past game I mentioned, but they continue to shut down the run. With Aiden Hutchinson, he has emerged well. His emergence has been incredible over the past few weeks, and they have absolutely been stout against the run. So even if Travis Etienne does make his return, I'm going to hold off a little bit on his upside expectations. Obviously, you start him. He's a running back 2 candidate, but his upside could be capped with how well this Detroit defense is playing. I think Christian Kirk does outscore Etienne this week. So, obviously, with that saying, Etienne is a must start. Jamal Williams is a RB1 for the Lions. He will be leading many playoff teams, including mine. I picked him up. You should have picked him up when I told you guys to. DeAndre Swift is definitely still a flex play. We saw the proclivity of the coaching staff to give him touches around the goal line. They're not going to give him all to Jamal Williams. So we still see DeAndre Swift flying in the end zone. He's still a decent flex play, and he's going to be heavily involved in the passing game as Jameson Williams is on track to return, but he's not activated just yet. So, until we see Jameson completely integrated this offense, DeAndre Swift, I still think is a fine flex play. And I don't need to tell you about Amon-Ra. You're starting him. Commanders at the Giants, where Washington's currently favored by 2.5 points. Giants continue to get absolutely zero respect. And welcome to our weekly running back game, where you start the running backs and absolutely no one else. Saquon is in your lineup, and so is Brian Robinson, especially with the fact that Antonio Gibson is still, as of Thursday, is a DNP at practice with that ankle injury, so it looks like he will be a doubtful or a no-go, or at least doubtful for the game on Sunday. Brian Robinson is a smash play. Maybe you slot in Terry McLaurin as a flex, given Heineke's propensity to chuck up 50-50 balls, but I still don't have confidence in Heineke's ability to facilitate a passing game. Now, I have confidence in Heineke as a game manager. I don't have confidence in him to facilitate the passing game. There is a big difference there. Big difference. And especially with Thibodeau's emergence over the past few weeks, rushing the passer and creating a ton of havoc in the backfield makes me even less confident in Heineke's ability to throw the ball consistently and accurately. So a little bit down on the pass catchers for the Commanders in this game. Moving on, Broncos at Ravens, where Baltimore has a lovely line of 8 points, and the Broncos game has always hit the under, so I'm kind of avoiding any sort of deeper reach on this game whatsoever. I know D'Onta Foreman had a decent game on the ground last week against the Denver run defense, and literally as I was typing up this game, I got the notification that Lamar left practice with a quadriceps injury, and I always put the Ravens on these lists of games to talk about, even in the quick hits, just because of how special Lamar is and his ability to break open games and just be a complete unicorn when it comes to the NFL. But, honestly, I thought about not even talking about this game at all, because without Lamar, there's not even a single piece in this offense that genuinely gets me excited. Genuinely, I could not care less. We'll see Tyler Huntley maybe take the snap, and if so, Mark Andrews should be fine, but Gus, maybe Gus in a deep flex play. On the other side of the ball, I really don't mind Cortland Sutton and Greg Dulcich as plays against this Ravens secondary. We saw they give up a ton of points to the wide receiver and tight end position. So those are the guys I would be playing. I'm not going to go with Latavius Murray against this defensive front of the Ravens. I don't want to deal with it. Seahawks at the Rams. God, no Rams. Please, God, I don't want to talk about the Rams. No starting Rams. No Rams. I saw someone in our Dynasty League, they dropped Allen Robinson in a Dynasty League. Not just in redraft, in Dynasty. That's how bad the Rams are at this point. So talking about this team is going to take years off my life. It actually has taken years off my life with how stressed out this team gets me. And even so, Aaron Donald is out with an ankle injury. So I don't think we see Aaron Donald or Matt Stafford for the rest of the season. They'll probably be held out. Honestly, Sean McVay should just go to Mexico or go to Cabo right now. They should just forfeit the rest of the season. There is 0 point to any of these Rams players going out and possibly getting injured. Kenneth Walker without Aaron Donald, smash play. DK, Metcalf, Tyler Lockett are just insane. Let's keep rolling with Geno Smith season. They'll absolutely torch the Rams. Let's keep it rolling. This offense is great. Saints at Buccaneers, where Tampa Bay is currently favored by 3.5 points. I cannot wait for this absolute carnival of game that's going to take place on Monday night. It should be an absolute entertaining matchup. You don't think Marshawn Lattimore is going to go head hunting for Mike Evans after their altercation in week 2? Yeah, I'm really interested to see the development of the Bucs team as well. Again, this is a Saints team that has been struggling, and guess what? Over the past 2 weeks, Rachaad White has reestablished the ground game in Tampa Bay that they have so desperately been missing for most of the season. It adds another dimension to this team that's going to be great for Tom Brady and the passing game. I mean, it gives Tom Brady, it helps alleviate pressure off the decimated O-line, helps buy more time in the pocket for Tom Brady, and obviously that allows routes to develop and down the field and for Tom Brady to make those passes. So Chris Godwin, I think, will be a wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2, borderline wide receiver 1 candidate this week. But Evans, I am purposely avoiding just because he has bad juju against the Saints. Like in the past 4 years, Mike Evans hasn't had a single double-digit fantasy game against the Saints, and that's 4 years. Years I'm talking about. This is like a 4-year-long saga. That's longer than the average NFL career. So listen, I think it's going to be a very long day for Mike Evans. I'm not telling you to bench him, but if you have like an equivalent pivot option, I would go with the pivot option. And obviously, Kamara, he's had his struggles in recent weeks, and I'm going to say it's going to be another very long day for Kamara Owens on the other side of the ball going up against this Tampa Bay defensive line led by Vita Vea. Last one, Cal's at Cowboys. Dallas by 11 points. I'm not going to talk about it because I break down a lot of these players in my Sleeper shorts. So I'm going to avoid talking about it this week. I'm going to go highlight Sleeper, go over to SleeperHQ, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. Go check out, I do deep dives into a lot of these players, Tony Pollard, Zeke, Paris Campbell, Johnny Taylor, Michael Pittman, obviously. So yeah, go check them out there. Do a deep dive, much better than I would be covering it right here. And so now we can finally, with that being wrapped up, let's talk about our matchup of the week.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble!
This matchup of the week, to absolutely no one's surprise, is going to be Chiefs at the Bengals, where Kansas City is currently favored by 2.5 points. The over-under is the highest on the week at 52.5 points, which gives Kansas City a projected point total of 28, and Cincinnati is currently projected at 26 points. And this is a game that needs absolutely no introduction. Even everyone remembers this game from last year. This Chiefs game holds a special place in the hearts of many Jamar Chase fantasy owners, as he put up a massive 50-point game against the Chiefs in championship week for fantasy. It holds a very bad place in my heart because I faced Jamar Chase in my championship matchup last year. You can probably guess the result of that game. This game also put Joe Burrow on the map as an elite QB and established them as a legit contender in the AFC, and is also a rematch of the AFC Championship game from last year. So, probably no love lost from either of these teams, given how that game played out. The Chiefs defense hasn't been great all year. There's been rookie struggles from Trent McDuffie, which, again, as a DB, not surprising. They lost Honey Badger in the offseason, and Karlaftis. I called this at the beginning. I mean, obviously, you can't find it here on YouTube. You can probably go back on my Twitter. But I called Karlaftis as a bust and a guy I didn't want to pick in the first round. And he has been looking like a bit of a bust so far. On the other side, Chase is on track to play, and Burrow is definitely eager to light them up again as a vie for a playoff spot. Again, this is a very crowded AFC I think it's the Bengals, Ravens, Chargers, Jets. A lot of these teams are vying for a lot of those last few playoff spots. And again, for for the Kansas City Mahomes, that's what they should be called at this point. I have been screaming from the rooftop about how Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL, bar none. Heads and shoulders above everyone. I don't want to hear talk about Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. I mean, I do love both of those guys, but Patrick Mahomes is by far and away the best quarterback. I don't want to hear any arguments to the otherwise. He's just so special, and please, I am begging you to treasure every second of Patrick Mahomes football you get to watch, because this is truly greatness that we are witnessing. And no, I'm not a Kansas City fan, but I am a huge Mahomes fan. It doesn't matter what mishmash of crap lines up in the backfield or out wide. Mahomes just elevates them to a top 5 offense regardless, and it's single-handedly on his shoulders. Even against an improved Bengals defense that has been respectable all year. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm struggling to put, like, where do these wideouts fit in between injuries to McCole Hardman, Kadarius Toney? MVS has been out for a little bit. Like, there's so much inconsistency. I don't know where to put them, but I still think this is going to be a top 5 offense. I don't care about the running back situation. They signed Melvin Gordon. I wouldn't play him, but I mean, obviously Kelsey's a must start. You throw him out there, but with Mahomes, it's no matter who you line up out there, he can make gold out of straw. He is the Rumpelstiltskin of the NFL. So let's go in without. I put my mind to it. I figured out some must starts. I figured out my tiers. So let's actually break down the tiers and how I actually view these games. Apart from, Mr. Mahomes, who's a must start every week in and week out. Even probably when he's on bye, you should probably start him. Outside of him, Joe Burrow, T. Higgins. If Jamar Chase is active, which I think he will be, you do start Jamar Chase. Joe Mixon, he should be out of concussion protocol, so I would start Jamar Chase there. If not, then obviously Samaje Perine's a must start in backup for Mixon. And then Kelsey and Juju Smith-Schuster for the Kansas City Chiefs. Probably starting Isaiah Pacheco. I do think the signing of Melvin Gordon hurts him a little bit, but not enough to take him out of that starting position. And the Bengals are top 10 against the run and giving up, I believe, the ninth fewest points to the running back position. So again, it's going to be hard for Isaiah Pacheco. Then obviously MVS is going to be the secondary passing option for Mahomes. So given how stout the Bengals defense is, MVS could be a very deep flex play. And in desperation, we have Hayden Hurst as the tight end and Tyler Boyd, who has burned us for the past 3 weeks. And I am very, very much against starting him because he continues to burn me and continues to make my predictions look horrible. But, he always has a chance to go off for 100 yards. I mean, this Joe Burrow throwing him the ball. There's going to be coverage primarily focused on Jamar Chase. Tyler Boyd, desperation, go for it. All right, that ends that section. Let's talk about our sleeper player breakdowns. So I'll tell you, these are the guys that I'm highlighting on the shorts that you see over on the SleeperHQ YouTube channel. Going to be Joshua Palmer, Keenan Allen, Johnny Taylor, Michael Pittman, Paris Campbell, Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, Rashad White, Leonard Fournette, Chris Olave, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Drake London. I go very much in depth on stats, analysis of the past few games, where they would rank, how I would start them. So go check those out if you have specific questions on those players. And I'll leave you with one final parting thought.
There's only one thing that I'm not clear about.
Actually, there is one thing.
What other thing?
All right. My parting thought here, this is more philosophical rather than analytical. Take a deep breath. This is fake football. Please do not get too worked up. I've seen people screaming, yelling, doing all sorts of crazy, inane stuff because of fantasy football. This is supposed to be fun. This is supposed to be a game. I mean, I got into fantasy. I knew nothing about fantasy when I first started my league. I drafted Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady in the 3rd and 4th round, if that tells you how much I knew about fantasy when I first got into this industry. But I loved it. You know why? It was a great excuse to stay in touch with friends and a bunch of people that I normally didn't talk to from college or that I maybe had lost touch with. And genuinely, fantasy football has improved a lot of these friendships. I talk to them a lot more because, we get started talking about fantasy football. We get started talking about trades, and then it just kind of evolves into, hey, how's your life going? What's new with you? This sort of stuff. And, it's supposed to be like, we'll reach out, we'll talk good-natured trash, and it's just supposed to be fun. It's supposed to improve relationships, it's supposed to give you another avenue to, engage in activities outside of people instead of just going to bars and drinking and all that fun stuff. So just don't let fantasy ruin football. I mean, we're getting out to the end of the season. Things are getting stressful. Don't let it ruin your sleep schedule. You should not be worrying about fake football. Set it, forget it, don't worry about it. And sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you get unlucky. That is the nature of gambling, and fantasy football, when you break it down, is sports gambling. So once you embrace that nature of that volatile nature of sports gambling, that you can't be right all the time, that you can't make all these predictions, that who cares about process and what should have been, and if you deserve a win, it doesn't matter. It's a game. It's fake football. Just embrace it. You'll be much happier enjoy the ride. That's all I can say right now as this week boils down. Going to take a little bit more philosophical approach. So as that being said, take my advice. Don't take my advice. Just enjoy the game. Hopefully I help bring you guys to the playoffs, and we'll talk about the playoffs in a couple weeks, and I'll see you next week.